It's certainly unusual for growth to slow below the 8% handle, so this is no doubt a serious slowdown. That said, it's been a slowdown we've expected for some time and certainly had plenty of warning signals, and the authorities have also had time to respond by easing policy, both cutting rates and upping fiscal stimulus. So as a result of that, it wouldn't be a surprise to see growth stabilize somewhat in the final half of the year.
You're looking at other evidence, for example, the listed companies in China, better than 1,000 of them, and it's pointing to the fact that they're cutting back quite severely, especially if they have exposure to the consumer sector. They're preparing for much worse, perhaps?
Well, these are sectors that have primarily benefited from fiscal stimulus, certainly since the crisis, and as that stimulus was withdrawn over the last few years, they're the sectors that have suffered worse. It's certainly a timely warning that fiscal stimulus is not always as helpful as we might think. So it's household electronics, it's automobiles. These are the sectors that seem to be worst affected. On the other hand, we are seeing some strength in other service sectors, such as the financial and consulting sectors, where firms are actually adding workers. So it's something of a mixed picture. But that shouldn't take away from the overall trajectory that this is an economy that is slowing down significantly.
In fact, the Premier Wen Jiabao is ringing alarm bells that there's more downward pressure ahead. What is he trying to do in his last gas here in office? Push for additional reforms and not rely on the government reserves and stimulus another round?
Wen Jiabao is something of a populist, and he knows how to say the right thing at the right time. The average person on the street knows that growth is slowing, and so it makes a lot of sense for him to come out and recognize that fact, and perhaps to give some comfort that the government is not only ready but is able to support growth if needed, and if this deceleration is larger than we think and doesn't stabilize in the final half of the year. So I don't think itself his call is arguing for more reform, particularly with the leadership change coming up just 6 months away. I think the time for reform, for this leadership at least, has now passed.
In fact, have they managed the historic change well? You have this huge migration into the regional hubs over the last 10 years. Is this going to come apart in the next administration, if I can put it that way?
Look, there is certainly a major challenge for the next administration. The economy is increasingly imbalanced. It's dominated by state-heavy industry. What we need is a more vibrant private sector. But that takes genuine reform, the type of reform we haven't seen for over a decade now. And so we're waiting with anticipation to see how this incoming leadership will respond. And the challenge, of course, is that if we don't see the sorts of reforms that are needed, there is a risk that growth slows to around about 5% level over the medium term.
Wow. When you say medium term, very quickly, Ben, are you looking at 4 to 5 years?
Certainly, we could be talking 1 to 3 years.